Okay, then we start here. Today, October the
21st.
2012?
Right.
All right. And I'm speaking with who, please?
Patricia Finder Stone.
Okay. That's an interesting name, Finder Stone. That's a hyphenated name?
Yes, it is. My husband was Mark Stone, and I was Patricia Finder. And we connected, and we were married for 43 years until the time of his death. So.
Yeah. Now the Finder name, where's that from? What ethnic or?
It's, well, Scotch-German.
Okay. Okay.
Scotch-German.
And Stone, I've seen that all throughout every...
That's English.
Yeah.
Pretty English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of journalists and a lot of financiers were named Stone.
No, I'm sorry. That was not our although my father-in-law used to be very involved in politics. He was in the State Assembly, chaired the Joint Finance Committee, and was a very, very active man. My father-in-law,
Yeah.
Riley Stone.
Okay. So, politically oriented, the family?
Well, the Stone family generally were Republican, but...
The progressive side or the stalwarts?
My mother used to be chair of the Democratic Party in Sauk County.
Okay.
And when Mark and I were going to be married, everyone, oh, that'll never work, you know. The two political parties, but we had a beautiful marriage, and we had a wonderful, we were able to dialogue if we had differences. And now I'm not affiliated with any political party. I'm independent because I'm involved in the League of Women Voters, and
Yeah.
in that position as action chair, I cannot be involved. So,
Okay. I didn't get your date of birth and who your parents were.
I was born on the 27th of January, back in the Depression years in 1929.
Cool.
So, I'm 83. I think I'm 83
You were
now.
doing, they say you're well preserved or just
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
An awful lot of, I interview a lot of older people, and
Yeah. Well,
you got the.
I stay active. I exercise every morning, and I try to eat right, but that doesn't always work.
Now, Mary may ask a question now and then. This is
Fine. Very
part of our
good.
collaborative effort.
That's
But,
nice. That's nice. She's non-threatening.
Could you give me your educational background?
Yes. Well, I got out of high school when I was 16, and I was too young to go on to, I wanted to be a nurse, and I was too young to enter any nursing school at that time because the law said that you had to be 18, or you had to be 21 when you took your state boards. So I worked as a nursing assistant for 2 years till I was old enough to go into nursing school. And I went to Columbia Hospital in Milwaukee, which was a 3-year diploma program. Then I graduated, and I got a scholarship to go on to school, and I enrolled at the University of Madison. But I made the disastrous decision to buy a car. So of course I could not afford a car and an education. So then I went to work, after I graduated, I went to work in Chicago at Cook County Hospital in their psychiatric ward. And that was a disaster because that was in the days when they did not treat patients appropriately. It was cruel. So I was disillusioned, and even though I thought I could change the system at Cook County, I realized that I was not that powerful. So I left Cook County and I joined the Air Force. This was when the Korean War had just begun, and I had been too young to be involved in World War II. So I joined the Air Force, much to the dismay of some of the people in the little town that I was living in, because they thought for women to be in the service was not appropriate, but then it was okay since I was a nurse. So I had a wonderful experience as an Air Force nurse. I felt very good about what I did. In fact, I volunteered. I was stationed in New York State, and I volunteered to go to Korea because I thought I could really help during the war. Well, government being what it is, they sent me to Greenland instead of Korea. But I loved Greenland, and I think that is when I initially became concerned about the environment. We were on a remote base. There was nothing there other than the base, surrounded by mountains with glaciers in the background, and it was beautiful. I loved the remoteness. I loved the scenery, and our only opportunity to do anything was to hike up to the glacier. There was nothing to do. So that became my routine. I'd hike up to the glacier, and I loved it. It was just beautiful.
What year is this?
This was 1951 to 53, the end of 1951 when I was in Greenland. And for a year, 1 year, and it was remote duty. The only time I got off the base was when I had to fly a couple times people back to the States that were hurt in Greenland. I had to fly to Keflavik, Iceland, because we had some people from Iceland that were working on the base. But it was a very, very remote duty, but very good duty. We had, it was during the Cold War, and we were a refueling base for planes that were on their way to Europe, but we were also, there were, at the time, it was very hush-hush, but they were doing the overflights of the Soviet Union, and of course the Soviet Union was overflying us and spying on us.
I never heard of any of their U-2s being shot down, though.
No, you're right, you're right. I didn't either, but they used to fly over our base, and they'd say, we'd get on the radio, the third light on the right-hand side of the runway is off. You'd better fix it. How do they know that?
They would be informing the Americans.
They would be telling us, yes. So it was good duty. I had some wonderful experiences. The King and Queen of Denmark. It was a Danish property,
yes.
And the King and Queen of Denmark came to visit the base, and I was invited along with the three other nurses. There were 6 nurses altogether, but three of the other nurses and I were invited on board the King's ship, and it was just, they were very nice. A little ceremony, had dinner. It was very King Frederick.
King Frederick?
And
Okay.
Queen Ingrid and King Frederick. Okay. And he came by plane, and she came by ship. And then they got together when they were there because they were afraid that something would happen to one of them, and they wanted the royal chain to go on. Anyhow, I had that experience. I had an opportunity to fly in a T-33, which is a training flight, fly down over the fjord and meet the other planes when they were coming up the glacier. Am I getting too involved? You tell.
No. Are you a pilot?
No, I was a flight nurse.
Okay.
And so it was a thrill to get in the T-33, which was a trainer jet, and it was very dangerous to fly down the fjord between the mountains, but it was exciting. I liked the adventure. I also had an opportunity to fly when the icebreakers came up the fjord. They would go on up to check out what was going on, and I had an opportunity to fly in a helicopter and to land on the glacier and look down the crevasses and see it was just astounding. And so I had a great experience. And then I came back from Greenland after a year and went to MacDill in Tampa, Florida. And at this point in time, we were getting a lot of the fellows back from the Korean War. They would come many came to our base, and we had a lot of, again, I was back in the psychiatric area then, and it was very difficult. But it was certainly better than Cook County Hospital's treatment of the patients. Meanwhile, my husband, who we'd been dating since before I went into the service.
Did you go to the same school together?
No, but we were 9 miles apart. He knew my family and I knew his family, and we dated, but he never asked me to marry him until I went to Greenland. And then I think he thought he was going to rescue me, which he did. And we got married. I went back to my base after summer vacation, and told my base commander that at this point I was on an indefinite status. So I told him that I would like to get out of the service now because I wanted to get married. And he said, "Oh no." My husband was at this point in time teaching and coaching out in Nevada, right outside of Las Vegas at Boulder City, Nevada. And he said, "Well, Pat, we can or Lieutenant Finder, we can transfer you to Nellis Air Force Base, and you can stay in the service and you can be married." And I said, "Oh no, my husband wouldn't like that." Well, as it turned out, Mark thought it would have been great, but I didn't check with him anyhow. So we went home, or I went home at Christmas time, and we got married at Christmas time. And our honeymoon was driving out west to his home, where he was living, Boulder City. And then we lived there, and our first child came along 10 months later, and we didn't go into Las Vegas. I mean, we went for a couple shows, but that was not really our lifestyle. It was not the place that we wanted to raise our children. So Mark had started on his master's degree at Madison, so we came back to Wisconsin, and he continued on his master's degree and went into school administration. And we lived in Two Rivers when we first came back, and then we moved to a little town called Cazenovia, and where he had his his positions. I followed along and continued to work. I was taking some courses through the University of Wisconsin-Madison, some correspondence courses to kind of stay up to date, and of course a lot of nursing courses on the side. But I really wanted to get back to school to get my degree. So after we moved to Green Bay, they had the extension. They didn't have the school in itself was not built yet. It was on the drawing board. So I thought, well, I'll go to Oshkosh. So I started commuting back and forth to Oshkosh. And I got my public health certification through the University of Oshkosh. And then I went to UWGB, and this was back in the early 70s. And I got my bachelor's in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on gerontology, because I was very involved in caring for older people. I was working all the time, never stopped working all my life. And what am I running on to?
No, I asked about your education.
Okay, now I'm at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and it was a wonderful school.
Was that a special program in gerontology? I mean,
an emphasis on gerontology, but the program was curriculum. No, it was not. It was human biology. Curriculum instruction was Madison.
They had many innovative programs.
It was a College of Human Biology with an emphasis on gerontology, and that was what I did. I became very involved in caring for the elderly. At one point in time, I was working at Bellin, and I was asked to be the director of nurses at one of the nursing homes. I won't mention the name, but I got involved in the nursing home as their director of nurses. And once again, the care was horrible. And I met with the board and tried to make some changes, and it was not an appropriate time to make changes. So I left there and went back to Bellin, where I became an educator. I was a nursing instructor there. Meanwhile, I was gathering credits at UWGB and thoroughly enjoying the school. I felt it was a very responsive to past experience and encouraging of new experiences. And I did graduate from UWGB in 1973 and decided, well, I want more education. So and Bellin College was very supportive, And I then continued on a part-time basis, going back and forth to Madison to get my master's in curriculum and instruction, but with an emphasis on bioethics. And graduated from there in 1975. Came back, and all the while I was working, continuing my nursing teaching. And let's see.
Well, one thing, ethics is often used in association with morality, religion. We haven't talked at all about your religious background or your parents.
Well, my parents were, my mother was Catholic, my father was not affiliated. He was a Mason, a Masonic order. Mm-hmm. Mark's parents, Mark was Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, and I was a participating church-going person until I started questioning some of the tenets of the church. And my husband continued to be Catholic until he died. However, I am not affiliated with any church, and have not been for some time. But I regard myself